Hey, I'm Noland. 7 years ago, I dislocated my C4, C5 while swimming in a lake. There were a lot of things to adjust to. Some things I would have never guessed would be difficult became very difficult.
It's Nolan's biggest dream right now to become independent. I hope that this study not only helps him to do that, but it also helps technology to advance in quadriplegics.
I'm really excited to be a part of this Neuralink project. I want to help out people down the road as much as I can.
Today on the show, we're joined by Noland Arbaugh, the first publicly known human to receive Neuralink's brain-computer interfaced implant. After a driving accident left him paralyzed from the shoulders down, Noland volunteered for one of the most experimental technologies of our time. Now he can control digital devices only with his mind. We'll explore what the procedure was like, how the tech really works, its ethical implications, and how merging with a machine is reshaping his view of identity, ability, consciousness, and the human potential. This is a conversation about risk, resilience, and the future of the mind. Join us as we get rebelliously curious. Noland, thank you so much for joining me on Rebelliously Curious. As I was saying to you just a moment ago before we started recording, I have been following your journey and Neuralink and BCI's brain-computer interfaces since the beginning. So it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so fascinated with your journey, and it really is a pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for following along. Yeah, it's been a wild ride so far.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I can and I can't. From seeing it from your perspective, though, it must be an unbelievable experience to be the first person in the world to have a BCI.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been pretty cool. I'm not the first person in the world to actually have a BCI, the first person to get a Neuralink, but there have been, a few different people here and there that have gotten BCIs. It's been around for a few decades. So I've met with a few of them. There's some pretty cool people.
That's actually, you're right on that. That's very true. Yeah. There's BCIs have been around for at least 30 years, but you are the first person that has the link. Can we talk a little bit about your process and how this started, what motivated you to contact Neuralink, and just breaking down, where it all began and now where you are today?
Yeah. So I didn't know what Neuralink was when I applied, really. I got a call from one of my buddies from college who was more in like the spinal cord field. He was Googling some Elon Musk stuff one day. I think he was looking for like SpaceX stuff, and he came across that the human trials had just opened up, and immediately thought of me, gave me a call and was like, want to get a chip in your brain? It's like, got nothing better going on. Like, what is this company? Like, what's it about? And he gave me kind of a 5-minute rundown and then helped me apply online. I never thought I would get it in a million years. I thought that, I had applied for a huge database of studies a few years prior, and I never heard back from any of those. So I was thinking, what are the odds that I get like no response from them, but that I managed to make it into one of the most high profile studies in the world. So made a bunch of jokes on my application. Pretty common ones that I've talked about are like wanting an Iron Man suit, wanting to be part of the Matrix, things like that. But as I started making it through interviews and got to the point where I realized that it was a very real possibility that I would be selected, my motivation from that point on was always just to help people. I just wanted to find some way to make a difference. I hadn't really had much purpose in my life for years, and this seemed like a great opportunity to give back and to inject some purpose into my life. So from that point on, I was kind of just very much facing forward, not trying to sit too long in any of my fears or insecurities or doubts. Just what can I do for someone else, and make, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like the world a better place sort of thing. Yeah. And it was 4 months from when I applied to brain surgery, and it's been almost 15 months. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's so amazing, and it is inspirational for so many people that have all different forms of disabilities that are looking towards this type of technology, right? Non-invasive and invasive, because there's both options right now.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about even just the medical procedure? Like, how long did it take? Or was it a few hours? How long was then recovery? And then just kind of the initial programming that would go into something like that? Because I think a lot of people that are probably watching this are thinking, well, how does a step-by-step work for something that they've never seen before, right? And I think it's even probably harder to find online unless you're looking through a Reddit forum or you're talking to a specific neurologist. Yeah.
Yeah. So step by step. Before surgery even happens, the medical team, the team at Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix, where I had my surgery done, they did some scans on me, some brain scans. They did, MRI, CAT scan, I believe. There were a few, and then a functional MRI. And functional MRI is basically just real time. They asked me to complete certain tasks, and I would move my fingers, try and raise my arm. Obviously, I can't do any of these things, but all the signals are still firing in my brain when I attempt to do them. And they get to watch what part of my brain lights up, and that's how they decided where they were going to implant the threads, whichever signals were the strongest. They took pictures of my brain to find where all of the veins and other major, places to avoid were when they went through surgery. They mapped out the entire surgery, where each of the 64 threads were going to go. And after that, just regular pre-op surgery stuff. I had to shower with surgical soap for a few days. I was already bald at that point because I had been shaving my head for a while, so that was pretty easy. And then going into surgery, it was, they created a robot to do the surgery, and that was the second part of this study, is how safe and viable is the chip, and how safe and viable is this robot that we built to do the surgery. And the robot accomplished its task brilliantly in under 2 hours. They were expecting somewhere between 3 to 6, and it far exceeded that. The surgeon said after my surgery, he had never seen a brain less traumatized from a brain surgery. Everything went about as perfect as it could have gone. And then immediately afterwards, they woke up the implant for the first time while I was in my hospital bed after I'd come out of anesthesia. They let me see my neuron spikes in real time, which was very cool. And that first day was just wait in the hospital. They could release me after 23 hours, which I thought was just ridiculous. I was like, I just had brain surgery. You sure you guys don't want to keep me a little bit longer? They were like, no, you're okay. Here's a prescription for pain meds. And I didn't take anything, not while I was in the hospital, not afterwards. Didn't even take a Tylenol. It didn't hurt. I couldn't feel it there or anything. There was a pretty cool scar that has basically vanished at this point, not just beneath my hair, but the head heals incredibly well. It's one of the best healing parts of the body. So I don't even know how much of a scar you could see at this point. And yeah, then we hit the ground running. For the first 10 days, they weren't allowed to like charge the implant because they needed to make sure it fit inside the correct temperature range and it wasn't going to melt my brain, because that would have been no bueno, would have been very bad. So for the first 10 days, we were limited to about an hour of use. And I went through a few tasks that they had me kind of working on, some experiments, like follow this visual, like it's going to be a hand opening and closing, and you open and close your hand. Obviously I can't, but like attempt to do it. And then we'll pick up the signals and we'll translate it into outputs. And eventually that happened about, well, like 10 days in, maybe. Yeah.
Wow. How intuitive would you say the link is?
Extremely. I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. I think there were moments when I realized, like, oh, this is a much bigger deal than I thought it was. This was not just something that will take, some signals and output like a click or a movement of a cursor. It is something that will learn over time as you give it more data, and not only be able to follow along what you want it to follow along with, but it may also be able to anticipate what you want to do next, just a little bit faster than than you can think it. So I think that is a really interesting avenue to explore someday. It's going to be a lot of fun. And there are a lot of ways that I've seen the implant just grow over time and become something that it definitely wasn't at the beginning, but there was always that like seed of what it could grow into. And I think we're still in the very early stages of this.
Yeah. And I always think of consciousness, when we have BCIs, and then how does this interact with our consciousness? Can you discuss, like, maybe if you felt even a form of different consciousness levels, or there has been this form of interaction, like how does the link, or in your perspective, because maybe we don't know that we're learning so much about consciousness now, how do you feel that it's interacting with it? Because it's a form of transhumanism. And so our consciousness is so attached to that, I would imagine, within our own body. How have you felt that it might have changed it or affected it, or has maybe worked with it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I did a speak at the University of Arizona for their consciousness club. And we got into some of these topics a bit. I'm not an expert on these things. I obviously am one of the few people who's had an experience with it. So some say that makes me an expert. I'm like, okay, maybe an expert as far as like using the link, the chip, but not an expert in places like philosophy or transhumanism or like consciousness and stuff. I haven't experienced what I think a lot of people are anticipating, like this heading towards. I think that it was very interesting when the chip started making little movements before I was ready for them to, or I guess before I was actively thinking I wanted it to make those movements. So, for instance, if I am moving from one place on the screen to another, and I want the cursor to say, go to the left side of the screen, click something, and then start heading back to the right side of the screen, there will be times when I am heading over to the left side, I stop to go and click, and the cursor is already moving the other way, because it anticipated that, like, when I stopped, I wanted to click and then immediately move back. But I hadn't actually like propagated the click yet. So it just is moving a little bit faster than I was ready for it to. And this is always, I guess maybe not always, but this has been an argument against like free will with people with consciousness is if there are things that are happening beneath your level of consciousness, if these signals are being sent before you even think them, then is that really free will? Like, obviously, there's something going on underneath your thoughts and what you believe to be your free will. So, like, what is that? And then what does that mean for you? I'm a Christian, so like obviously I have some very maybe bland beliefs when it comes to this topic. I think a lot of people that are in the consciousness field are generally more, I don't know, explorative with their ideas of what consciousness is. So when I see these things or when I'm interacting with the Neuralink, all I see is a machine. I see a chip that is just very good at what it was made to do. I can see how moving down the road, there will be certain interactions with the chip, which may blur the lines a bit. Right now, the chip is just reading my thoughts, I guess. It is reading my outputs, reading my neuron spikes. It can't actually input anything in. But as soon as it starts writing, which is the input, I think that relationship changes a bit. And then that line of like, what is me and what is the chip in my brain? Like, where do I end and where does the chip begin? What does it mean to be a person with this chip in my brain? What does it mean to be human? I can see all of these things and I've thought about them. I don't have answers to them. I have, I guess, well, I have my own answers to them, but not any that I think many people are satisfied with because they don't want to hear, okay, well, like you're a Christian, obviously you believe those things, but say you're wrong, like what else is there? And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm wrong. So I guess that's my end in the debate. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to think about at the very least.
I do too. What do you think? Like, I'd love to hear your perspective on it because outside of just even theology or anything else, this is your experience, right? It's a human experience for you. You're one of the first many people in the world to experience this and to understand it. So we do have to take what you say because you're living with it every day, and we have to hear your perspective. I am curious, even through your lens of theology, what you feel might be happening.
Yeah. Well, as far as the chip goes, it is good at what it does. It is picking up my signals and turning them into the outputs that I want. The more data that you feed it, the more it learns. So during like a calibration, the more I calibrate, the more it'll learn my intentions. And you know, like when you go what I was talking about earlier, there are signals like firing before you even consciously think. Like if you need to move your hand or move your arm, or if I need to move my head or anything, before I even move, a signal has to be sent and received in order for the action to take place. If I want to lift up my arm, all of those neurons need to fire, send a signal all the way down through my arm and then all the way back up. So there's a level of activity before I even think I want to move. I don't think that is anything that supersedes our idea of like free will. And so when I think of like a chip that is picking those signals up, I just think it's really just a machine. It's a tool that we've built to do exactly what it's doing. And so when I move to the left side of the screen and then want to move to the right, it is doing exactly what I want. I know I'm like planning ahead and I know, okay, once I get here and I click, then I'm going to do this. And so it knows the actions that I'm going to take in that order. And as I'm getting there and doing them, it is just kind of following that outline. I believe that there is, well, the idea of free will is a interesting one anyways, because you get into some like weird theology about, do we have free will? Is it like sort of a closed system where we have a limited number of choices? And that is kind of what our free will involves. Like, it's not that we have an infinite number of choices and all of them can branch off in an infinite number of directions. It's maybe more like, in my life at this moment, I have, say, 10 decisions that I can make. And of those 10, like those 10 have, 10 decisions or something. And so it's a lot more finite than people might think. I guess that's one side of it. Another side is that God has ordained everything from the beginning. And so even though we may think we have like this idea of free will, there is no such thing as free will outside of God. Like, he has created everything. And so he has given us this piece of himself. And if there is a piece of ourselves that are always yearning for God, that are like searching for higher meaning, that understand moral law, that, he has maybe elected different theology terms and stuff, like, then there's not really much free will in that at all. And so then, I don't know, you get into some weird conversations about, like, do we have free will? Do we not? I personally think there are a number of, it is a mystery to me how we could not have some, I guess, free will in like some decision to make in this whole scenario. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I like to think that God has given us the ability to come to him. He doesn't want to just elect people and choose them to himself. He wants to let people come to him of their own volition. And through that, we have free will. And so all of this, like, bio mechanisms going on in our brain, these signals that are firing, it is not some super will that is like overseeing our own will. It is just the mechanism that God has created to like move our bodies. And, there are a lot of things that we don't understand about the brain and about ourselves. And I think those are just sort of mysteries that are either meant to be unraveled or not meant to. And I'm pretty okay with the not at this point, I guess.
I think that's a great way. And none of us really know, right? So I think everybody's opinion in this matters, what consciousness means. And we can mean this on a spiritual level, a philosophy level, but it also can be done in a science level. And we're in that world right now where they're intersecting, right? And BCIs is a big part of it, I believe, right? And we're just, well, we're not just starting the road, but we are in the beginning of really testing it more than we ever have.
Yeah.
When we move into this like commercialization with BCIs, we've seen Synchron now working with Apple, targeting more people with ALS and other forms of disabilities. This wonderful commercialization can happen that can spread around the world and give access to people that really need this type of help, right? And it can change their lives, and it can change our lives as well. People that are not even, living in these forms of disabilities. And it's how we interact with each other and how we understand each other. What's your positive take from you see, having the link in you, where commercialization will go in the future? And then where can you kind of see these negative spaces, within your own experience?
Yeah. I mean, my first, I guess, goal with all of this, my passion being a part of this study has always been to help people with disabilities. So when I think about like what the future holds and any sort of commercialization, I think of other people like me who finally get to, I guess, contribute again, feel like they are like they have a purpose. They can, I don't know, like for me, it was find work, go back to school, reconnect with the world, and to be able to do those things, to find even a small amount more of independence is so worth it to me. When I think about this being commercialized at all, that's where my mind goes immediately, is all the people that it's going to help. Outside of that, I think, when people without disabilities, able-bodied people, as they are called, when they get the chip, I'm sure that'll happen at some point. I know that a lot of people may have some like ethical qualms about that. Like, why do they need it? They don't have disabilities. Like, I can understand why someone who is paralyzed would need a chip that, can control devices with their thoughts because they can't move. But why would a normal person? It's like cosmetic at that point and everything. And I see it as so much more. I see it as another tool to be used. I see it as something that could elevate our capabilities to new levels, either to new heights, making what we do now, like making us better at what we do now, or opening up new doors for us as far as what we're capable of doing with a BCI that we just have physical limitations with. And through all of that, I see just right there, that opens up so many doors for productivity and creativity. And that's really exciting. But then you start getting into a lot more sci-fi areas with, that was just me thinking about what would be possible with the threads implanted in like a motor cortex. Like if I can, instead of only being able to use like my hands, both my hands at one time, what if I could use both my hands, both my feet, and like imagine 8 other limbs that I am like creating in my mind that I can use to control a computer. Like there's a lot more that you might be able to do depending on how many ways you can split your attention. But then you start getting into places like the areas of the brain that control feelings and control language, control dreaming, control just thought and complex ideas. I think these are going to be a much bigger step for humanity in general, for Neuralink and like what they are trying to do with the device. Some of the things that Elon Musk is interested in, some of the things that Joe Rogan is interested in, famously saying you could go on your phone and flip a switch and you would get some sort of drug high because it's in the part of the brain that can like help release certain chemicals. Like, I think all of these things are possible, and not just possible, but they are very like real and coming, maybe sooner than people think. I'm honestly not sure. I am excited for that day. I think it's going to open up so many more avenues to explore and for humanity to grow. I mean, it ultimately is just something that we can use to make progress in our species and our world. Like the things that we might be able to accomplish, the ways in which we may be able to connect even deeper. I can share my thoughts with you. If I can share my feelings and you can feel them, you can think them instead of just being told or seeing. Like there is a depth to that I think is profound. And then being able to communicate with people, find some way to break language barriers where things are automatically translated into your mind as someone is speaking. And like the opposite is happening when you are speaking. Like, I think that would be so incredible. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities either. There are so many ways in which, like, I think they can be used now, but I think there are even more, probably an order of magnitude more ways that no one can imagine it can be used. If you think about like what the internet was at its inception, like where it is now, I don't think anyone could have imagined that it was going to be here. with the Neuralink, all of us have these cool, like sci-fi crazy ideas, which are really cool. Don't get me wrong. They're all so fascinating, but there might be ways in which in 5 or 10 years, we are using the Neuralink that I can't even imagine right now. And it'll be so much more than any of us would have ever thought. That's what I think this has the capability to become. Obviously, I'm more looking towards the short term, maybe even implanting a chip in the brain and one below the level of injury, someone with a spinal cord and being able to move their body again. Like, that's so doable, and they're working on it right now. And if I can give everything I have for the next 4.5 years that I'm in the study to accomplish that and make it so someone doesn't have to live with paralysis like I have, like ever again, then everything will be worth it to me. And that's where I'm aiming at right now. All the other stuff is like fun thought experiment, but we're just not there yet. So there's no reason to really, I guess, fantasize about it too much. I can see where it could go wrong too. I could see how people could use it to physically manipulate other people, emotionally, psychologically manipulate other people. If you're able to write onto someone's brain with the Neuralink, then you can input a lot of stuff that maybe they don't want in there. Where is all this data going? Who's collecting it? Is it all going to like data banks somewhere and someone is taking all of that and using your actual thoughts to curate your own like ads and like what they want to sell you and sell your information or use it to target you in some way? Like, that's all pretty scary, I would say, to a lot of people. I think it's something that hopefully we can work around. I hope those sorts of things never happen. I think that's a red line for me. And then, if the chip is hackable, so like what happens when one is hacked and it's able to write onto someone's body, write into someone's brain and control their body or control their mind. Like, you literally get into thought control, more than that, like physical bodily movement control. So yeah, I can see where this can go wrong. But at the end of the day, people are evil, not technology. This can be used for so much good. And I believe that it will be used for much more good than it will be used for bad, for evil. And so I think the good far outweighs the bad. I don't think that's any reason for us to stop. Just be responsible, be cautious, understand these things, and try to find some way to mitigate them.
I agree. And I love what you said. Technology, is evil or bad. It's not technology, it's people. Right. Yeah. And that's very true. It's a solid point. We make the decision what we do with this technology now and then the future. Even looking at it from a national security perspective and how that might grow. If I can ask you, has people from DARPA or any forms of national security talked to you, interviewed you, have had questions about it? Because I could see this moving into, and obviously, like, even we look at robotics, right? A Neuralink connected to robotics and be able to program robots that will be fighting in combat if it's obviously not happening already to that degree through a DARPA level. Have you talked to anyone from that perspective?
No.
Okay.
I wonder if they would reach out to me. I could see them reaching out to maybe some of the top brass at Neuralink or something. I could see maybe them getting a couple insights from me. But I'm not sure I'd have much to offer them. No one's reached out. They want to. I'm here. Hit me up on X. I'm willing to talk. It's something that actually you had mentioned at the beginning of this interview, or maybe before we started, that if there are things maybe that I don't want to talk about, I can rephrase them, choose not to answer, all of these things. I was never taught or trained I never had any like PR people through Neuralink or Barrow or any other organizations like teach me how to do any of these things. I never signed any sort of NDAs, never signed any documents that, restricted me from talking about certain things. Neuralink has trusted my judgment, and I have been very honest with them that like I don't want to hurt the company. I don't know why I would. I'll do my best to act responsibly and think about what I say before I say it, because I know that my words carry a lot of weight in a lot of ways, and I don't want to do anything that would hurt Neuralink as a company, their image, or anything. And I mean, it's not that I'm hiding anything. It's just, people take things out of context, especially with Elon Musk's name attached to it. So yeah, I'm an open book. So anyone wants to reach out and talk to me about anything, like I'm here. I haven't had to say no to any sort of questions yet, here or other places. I think most of the time I'm just like, I don't know, or I don't know what I can say about that yet, because it hasn't been like fully released by Neuralink, and I don't want to give away the surprise. Now that I can't talk about it, I just think it'll be cool when they put together a whole report and release it, and it's going to be awesome. So everything else I've been very forthcoming with. So anyone from the government wants to, I guess, contact me. I'm sure they're listening in. Feel free.
Fair enough. And yeah, I agree. Like outside of politics with Elon Musk, you have a whole bunch of people that are working at Neuralink, and trying to work on these challenges every single day. So it's not one person, it's a group of people. And sometimes we forget about that. And out of all of Elon Musk's companies right now, Neuralink is still very thriving, right? And it's wonderful to see, because it has such, not saying some of his other endeavors are not meaningful, but Neuralink has a very different type of meaning behind it and how it's contributing to society. With saying contributing to society, policy is such a massive thing when it comes to changing people's life. I remember a good friend of mine that's a lawyer said to me, Chrissy, if you want to help people, you have to contribute to changing policy. And I was like, you know what? It's so true. As much as we can help each other, which we should keep doing no matter what. Some of us can't be lawyers. We can be journalists. We can be people within all fields contributing, but policy means so much. If you had to contribute to writing policy around this, what would you want to say to the policymakers, or what would you put in those guidelines for people moving forward that are using the link or any type of BCI?
Yeah, it's something that I've thought a lot about, actually. Maybe not necessarily what I would say, like what my answers would be, but that perhaps my life or my journey is heading towards something like this. Because I am more than happy to talk, as I'm sure you've noticed. I talk quite a bit, probably way too much. But I also am very in tune with the technology. I'm very intimate with the technology. I understand it. And so talking to legislators is something that I think I would like to do at some point and try to affect some real change. Yeah, as far as what I would say, I think, like I said before, my red line is using the metadata for, I guess, even just advertising purposes, or using it and collecting it and selling it in packets to different companies for their market research or whatever. I think that there needs to be a big conversation about who the neural data belongs to. At this point, all of my data belongs to Neuralink, and I don't mind that right now. I think it's a study. I think that I volunteered for this. It is not something that I feel like I have any sort of right to at this point. If I didn't want them to have my data, then I should just I guess if I don't want them to have my data, I should just leave the study, and I'll take the rest of my neural data and keep it to myself. But but it is a study. I want them to learn as much as possible. So I want them to have as much as they can get out of it. Moving forward, when people are paying for this, when it is owned, it is a piece of their property, I guess. I think I would love to not go down the road that a lot of other technology has gone down, as far as like collecting people's data and selling it, or collecting people's data without their knowledge. I think that we need to be much more careful with this in regards to that, because it's not just what people are, tapping on their phone, where they're scrolling on their phone, kind of where their eyes gaze on their phone. Like, those things are very intimate and very personal, and I don't believe those should really be collected either. But this is like your mind we're talking about. I think there's something much more wrong about taking that data and collecting it and studying it or selling it to the highest bidder. I would not want that to be a future that we go down. That being said, maybe there are some forms of consent. But another thing is, I hate those terms and agreement stuff. No one's going to read any of it, so no one knows what they're actually signing over. I think it needs to be much more transparent than that. I don't know how we get there, because that whatever company is going to be giving out, well, I would hope Neuralink wouldn't be that, I guess, wouldn't want to take it in that direction. I can see how they might need to protect themselves, and so you'd get these long terms and agreements things. I get that. There are probably a litany of lawyers trying to figure out how to protect themselves when this thing goes out. But I think it is a very personal device. We're talking about yourself, your personality in a lot of ways, your soul, maybe not to that extent, but we're on the gray area in it, and teetering over the cliff there. So that's one thing that I think I'd be very passionate about, is who the data belongs to, who's allowed to collect data, what consent looks like. I think that would be the first thing I would want to work on, for sure.
Yeah. And this whole idea of uploading memories. I remember when Elon Musk said that at a press conference, my mouth dropped to the floor. It was yeah. And it's just going to grow and grow. Right. And I agree with you. I think data is a big one. And then ownership of thoughts, ownership of self, ownership of free will, ownership of consciousness, and ownership of spirit and soul, for sure. It has to be individualized. It can't be some commercial product that's sold or used for later. Yeah. Right.
No pop-ups, none of that.
Yeah.
Like that.
No thanks.
People make jokes about it. Oh, Elon's just Rick-rolling him the entire time. It's just never going to give you up on loop in my brain. And it's yeah, that's funny. And then you think about it and you're man, I hope something like that never happens. I hope it is not something where you walk by businesses and you get little pop-ups hey, you're running low on this, or hey, you want to stop in here? Look at this offer and stuff like that. I would absolutely hate it.
Yeah, this true. It's you're throwing away, or you mute advertisements for an hour and then it has to come back up, or you have to pay to mute it, which would be even worse. Yeah. Right. It's, and we're moving towards this choice with robotics too, and implementing, if it's later on our spirit or consciousness, or uploading our ideas into forms of robotics, or even currently using robotics with our mind. I think one of the most interesting choices we might have in future society, and I hope I'm kind of gone for this, to be honest. I like to see it, but I don't know if I'd use it. Yeah. But the context of just any average person being able to choose. Have you seen the movie Surrogates with Bruce Willis? Have you seen that before?
No, I don't think I have.
You should give it a watch now. It's a great movie. Like, I love it. I love Bruce Willis stuff. Like, it's like a Fifth Element kind of vibe.
Okay,
but Surrogates is where they get to choose to sit in like literally like a bed, but it kind of looks like a tanning booth, really. And they get to have their whole mind and everything feels real to them, but they're actually the surrogate that they choose, or avatar that they choose to use in the real world is just a robot, but it looks real. It acts real. And having that choice to choose between being like a normie in context of a human flesh and bones to then choosing robotics. And it's just integrated into everyday life. And we are moving towards that. You know, the idea though is how could you replenish, and you need food and you need movement to keep your body going. But, you know, we are moving towards that of uploading any type of consciousness or anything into a robotic form. So it's wild. I've talked to the chief executive officer at Synchron, and I made a joke with him saying that like, I've been watching this like my whole life, you know, as a little kid, I was fascinated by it. The Discovery Channel used to talk about it. So I've been probably following this since I've been 10 or 12. And wondering, watching that episode from, you know, BCIs, it would say it would happen all the way down to, you know, GPS and flat screen TVs. And so we're at all of that now. Right. And I think it's fascinating. Do you have, any fears that you right now currently with Neuralink and not even just what the future is like, but having the implant in you? Is there anything that you generally do worry about or concerned about?
Not particularly. I think the one thing that is always in the back of my mind, quite literally, is what the chip is doing to my brain or my body long term. That's part of the study. It's why we're doing it. It's something that we need to know. I was more than happy to take that on. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like worried about it. Like, it's not a constant fear of mine what is happening. I have no anxiety over it, but it's something that I think I've thought about a few times here and there. Like, who knows what having a chip on your skull, threads in your brain is doing like to you long term. Like, who knows what that's going to look like? What having a Bluetooth signal like coming directly from like your brain, essentially, what that's going to do to your brain, to the neurons, the tissue, like anything else going on in there. I would say that like really that's it. I mean, long-term data will come out with this at some point, on this at some point, and we will know like what these things with the chips are doing to your brain, like physically. I would be very interested to learn that. I probably won't, because I'll probably be dead by that point, but I know that at some point someone is going to learn something, how safe it is, what level of safe it is, like to what degree is it safe. And that would be it. Like, immediately, that's what I am. I guess that's not even immediate. That's like long-term effects. Outside of that, like, I guess long-term effects that could be happening right now, I should say, like, maybe it is doing something terribly wrong to my brain. I doubt it. I haven't felt anything bad. We've been doing like checkups pretty regularly, and we haven't seen any adverse effects, but it's just one of those things, like, you don't know until all the data comes out long term. So where you don't know until you come down with something and it's like, oh, well, this is what it was doing. It's like, all right, well, now we know.
Yeah. And you've had one experience with threads detaching, you know, and then they said that they put it back on another algorithm. Mm-hmm. So you have, you've gone through kind of a first little bump in the road and then been able to work through that, which is really wonderful. And I believe that it was from what I read and what I've reported as well too, that it's, that it was, Neuralink was very much on it.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't know at first, like, what was causing it. And like what was causing the control of my BCI, my computer, the cursor to deteriorate so rapidly. Um, they just they had no idea like why. And when they realized that it was the threads and, they told me for the first time, it was really, really hard to hear. And I don't think they had any solution in mind besides go in, take it out, put another one in, and hopefully it takes this time. Like, hopefully this time it doesn't, like the threads don't move. I think that's where they were getting to, at least day one. But the surgeon, the people running the study were more like, no, let's wait and see what happens. And, you guys, tinker around with things on your end, see if you can fix it on the software side. And if not, we'll revisit this maybe in like a month or something. And Neuralink just flipped a switch and everything worked better. So it was just one of those situations where it's all a learning experience. Like, we're learning so much. The next participants after me, like, none of them had the thread retraction issue because of what they learned with me. And that's why I'm here. That was the whole reason I did this, was so that they could learn things with me, test things, like have things break with me if it's necessary, so they won't break with people in the future. But yeah, it's all just kind of a journey, as they say, it's the climb.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I would love, I know we talked about this online via email. Can we do a little demo? Can we,
yeah.
And can you walk me through it too? And even like what it feels like, if there's a feeling towards it, or even like a cognitive feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. Here we go. Oh no. Okay. Well, I think this is so cool. I really hope it doesn't tell me to restart this.
It's okay. We can always restart if we have to.
Yeah. I think that's right. I want to do this sort of thing. Oh no. No, okay. I'm just playing around with this if I don't need to do that. Oh man. Okay. Here is my screen. This is my little cursor here. So here's
and
the link app.
Just so people, you're using your mind to do this, right?
Yeah.
So people know, just so they know. Yeah.
Look ma, no hands sort of thing.
You're right.
Yeah. So this is the link app. This is my command center, if you will. There's everything that I need to control the device in here, in some way, shape, or form. I might calibrate every day to get to refresh my cursor model, my click models. Basically, the brain is plastic, so day to day it might change. Neurons that were controlling my thumb one day might control my index finger the next. So if I've calibrated something to my thumb, maybe it just doesn't work as well the next day. So I might go in here and go into what we call a tune. And then I will go through the process of calibrating. So the yellow targets are just kind of hover over, they call them dwell targets. The blue are left clicks. And so you notice there's right orange or right clicks. So this little cursor that's lighting up blue, that is every time I click, it'll light up blue. And so I want to make sure that it's only happening when I want it to. So I'll go through and keep calibrating, like I said, orange or right clicks. And so I'll just keep doing this until I feel like I have a better model. Model just means cursor control and clicks and stuff. So I'll just keep doing it for as long as I want. Sometimes I'm in here for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'm in here for an hour. Just depending on what I want to do with the day and how good I think my model is and if it can get better and things. The purple or middle clicks, by the way. So yeah, wow. I'll do that. Yeah.
What does it feel like? Does
Yeah,
it, because
so-
you're literally like talking while thinking while doing this, and I'm assuming you're
Yeah.
focusing on, you're saying on your thumb or movement to
Yeah.
think about your hand. That's a lot. It is still a lot. When you're
Yeah.
using your mind consistently in that directional way, even though people will say, "Well, we do that every day, Chrissy." It's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. When you break it down, it is a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very used to it at this point. Like, I'm so used to like multitasking like this, where I am doing stuff and talking. I mean, I've been using it for a year, almost a year and a half, almost 15 months. So, I mean, I'm just so like it doesn't phase me that I am like talking and doing this all at the same time, but it doesn't feel like um it's hard to say. It doesn't feel like anything. It's just I am thinking I want the cursor to go here, or I want the cursor to go there, and it goes there, and I like don't have to necessarily look at it. I can like look completely away, and I'd probably die because I can't see the screen, but like look off to the side and still do the same things. So it's very intuitive, and you switch between. I think there will be a big like switch that will flip in people's minds when they are like using it for the first time, and it's the difference between what they call like attempted and imagined movements. Like attempted movement is me physically attempting to move my hand, like because my hand is, I guess, where I've calibrated my cursor control towards. So like moving my right hand to the right or to the left or up and then down, like to move the cursor. There will be a switch that flips in people's minds when they realize that you don't need to try to move at all. You can just think, I want the cursor to go here, here, or there. Like I want the cursor to go up or left or down or right. And without moving, you just think it and it does it. So yeah, I mean, it's very intuitive and it doesn't really feel like much. It feels like, I don't know, using the force in a way, but
For
also
sure.
just second nature at the same time. Like it's not anything that I'm so like it just seems like an extension of myself at this point, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's so cool. You're using the force because it's a form of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Now,
yeah.
Is it tiring? Do you get tired at points?
No.
Just kind of is the same as the average person would get tired doing multitasking on any level?
Yeah. I think it's not tiring at all. It is like I only get as tired as someone would get like in the course of a normal day. Like I'm not necessarily using any more of myself than someone else would in a day. At least it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like I am exerting more energy, exerting more whatever. Like I'm not trying harder using the device at all. It's very easy to use, and I will get tired like a normal person gets tired, like at night. I might be tired in the morning, or get like kind of a 2 o'clock slump or whatever. Like that's how I am, I guess, throughout the day. In no way have I seen it needing to, I guess, taking more energy than like normal. I know that other BCIs have like they take a lot of mental focus and they take a lot of energy out of the participants. That is not the case with me. I'm routinely on this thing 10 plus hours a day, just like doing random stuff, doing work. I'm trying to be productive, all sorts of stuff. And I get as tired as anyone else that would be on a computer for 10 hours, but no extra because I'm using the Neuralink. Yeah.
And is there, I would imagine, or maybe not, your ability to learn. Do you find that you're learning things quicker with the Neuralink in your mind and you're remembering things? Because I'm not sure if it's really targeted to the hippocampus. It's targeted to other areas of the brain. But do you find learning a lot easier? And if so, what are you learning currently right now? Because I know you've been using this for educational purposes in the past.
Yeah. So no, I don't think that it like affects my learning like that. Like people may think like, oh, I probably got smarter. Like I have a chip in my brain. I can store like memory in there and stuff like RAM or something. It doesn't work like that. I don't think that it has helped me like, okay. It's definitely helped me learn better, more quickly, only because, like I wasn't able to really learn in any sort of proficient way before. I was learning through like YouTube videos because I couldn't like work on anything through problems. I was just lying in bed, like watching YouTube videos and hoping that everything was being retained. So now I'm on a computer and I can like do things like I can use something like, what is this, Duolingo or something. Hey, good job, Austin. So I can use like Duolingo and go through and I don't know, like do these sorts of things where I couldn't before. I was maybe just like staring at a TV and repeating and listening and like you can learn like that, but it's so much better to learn like interactively. So like language learning. So like Japanese, like I love Japanese. I love the language and I've had a lot of fun learning it, and French. And I asked for some like little tools from some of the Neuralink guys to help me learn more about like what they're doing and learn more about the brain. So like neuroscience stuff and maybe some like coding stuff. Coding is still really difficult because of, I guess, the weakness Neuralink has in typing at this point. They haven't quite figured out like how to type at a really high proficiency. So once I get there, then maybe coding will become a lot more desirable for me. But for right now, it's just learning all sorts of stuff and just random stuff, things that I love, listening to, books, reading books. Like I do like Bible studies and learning that way, like strengthening my theology and things of that nature. That's always a constant journey. And then I don't know, like Peterson Academy stuff and all sorts, like whatever I can get my hands on. I've always loved learning. I've always loved reading. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for the demo. I'll just, if you can close the demo down and then we'll go back to full screen.
How do I?
It's amazing. It's so cool. Thank you.
It's just, sharing it. Yeah, no problem. Okay. How do I quit sharing? Oh, stop sharing. There it is. There we go.
There you go. That's unbelievable. Thank you. My last question to you to end this interview is, and this is very much what you think, because we all don't know. How has your perception of reality changed since, you were younger to now having, a BCI? What is reality to you, and how are you experiencing reality, and has the concept of what you believe is real changed, or has it stayed the same?
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I don't know. I think from childhood to adulthood, there is a reality shift that everyone kind of goes through, that I went through at some point. I think I hit it at probably 22 when I had my accident, and my reality shifted dramatically. I wouldn't necessarily say that is like what I find real versus what I don't find real, like Matrix real versus unreal. That's more just, living in sort of a immature fantasy land and then coming into maturity, being kind of thrust into maturity in my case. But then using Neuralink, what I believe is, I guess, my view on reality, if it shifted at all. Yeah, I don't think so. I think my view on reality has been pretty grounded in what I believe in Christianity the entire time. It has been, we are humans in a fallen world, and one day, if we have accepted God and the whole nine with Jesus, he is God incarnate, came, died for our sins. We are forgiven and have salvation in him because he rose again on the third day, defeated death and sin and all these things. And this road of sanctification that we are on throughout our lives one day will land us in the eternal. And that is the reality that we hope for in Jesus. That is the reality that we want and look forward to. This reality, in air quotes, I guess, is just our proving grounds in a way. It's our condition as humans to live in this fallen world and try to survive somehow. I don't necessarily think I've thought a lot about like simulation theory stuff. Like, are we in sort of a simulation? I don't think so. I think I am pretty much on the I believe that, well, I guess I believe in the Bible, and I believe what has happened there, and that is the life and journey that we are on. I don't know if there's anything else, and I don't think Neuralink has shifted that even a little bit. I was pretty strong in my faith before Neuralink, and it got me through like all of the beginning stuff, and has gotten me through now. And so I don't think I've changed much since then. Might be a disappointing answer to a lot of people, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a simple man with simple pleasures and simple thoughts.
Yeah, no, I don't think nobody knows what's going on. Like, let's be honest, right? Nobody knows. We try to get closer and closer every day, from science to theology to philosophy, but no one really knows. And no one really understands what is real and what is reality. I think that is an individualistic thing. So our experiences are real and how we treat each other is real. But I think that is the concept of what is reality and what is consciousness is what we're asking every day. So thank you, Nolan. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me and being rebelliously curious with me today. And please, I'd love to have you on again where we can talk about your journey, because it's fascinating. And I think you are an inspiration to so many people that have any form of challenge, if it's disability or neurologically. You are very much an inspiration to them and to all of us that are able-bodied. And so thank you on behalf of science and behalf of all the people that are watching this, because if it wasn't for you and everyone else that's doing it, we wouldn't be where we are today in this type of technology.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say. I definitely don't see myself the way a lot of y'all do, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.